He had been apprised that the final hour was 3, and he knew he would be summoned some time earlier, inasmuch as the tumbrils jolted heavily and slowly through the streets. Therefore he resolved to keep 2 before his mind as the hour, and so to strengthen himself in the interval, that he might be able after that time to strengthen others. Walking regularly to and fro with his arms folded on his breast, a very different man from the prisoner who had walked to and fro at La Force, he heard one struck away for him. Without surprise. The hour had measured like most other hours. Devoutly thankful to heaven for his recovered self-possession, he thought, there is but another now, and turned to walk again. Footsteps in the stone passage outside his door. He stopped. The key was put in the lock, and turned. Before the door was opened, or as it is opened, a man said in a low voice in English, "He has never seen me here. I have kept out of his way. Go you in alone, I wait near. Lose no time." The door was quickly opened and closed, and there stood before him, face to face, quiet, intent upon him, with the light of a smile on his features and a cautionary finger on his lips, Sidney Carton. There was something so bright and remarkable in his look that for the first moment the prisoner misdoubted him to be an apparition of his own imagining. But he spoke, and it was his voice. He took the prisoner's hand, and it was his real grasp. "Of all the people upon the earth, you least expected to see me," he said. "I could not believe it to be you. I scarcely believe it now. You are not—" The apprehension came suddenly into his mind. "A prisoner?" "No. I am accidentally possessed of a power over one of the keepers here, and in virtue of it I stand before you. I come from her, your wife, dear Darnay." The prisoner wrung his head. "I bring you a request from her." "What is it?" "A most earnest, pressing, and emphatic entreaty, addressed to you in the most emphatic of tones, of the voice so dear to you that you well remember." The prisoner turned his face partly aside. "You have no time to ask me why I bring it, or what it means. I have no time to tell you. You must comply with it. Take off those boots you wear, and draw on these of mine." So here, Carton is kind of rushing, talking to him, and there's a reason for it. We're going to find out what it is. But he says, "Look, I come from Lucy, and I'm telling you that everything that I ask you to do, Lucy's asking you to do. So imagine that it's her voice saying it. Don't ask questions. Just do what I ask as I ask it." And the first thing that he says is, "Look, first off, take your shoes off, and here, have mine." There was a chair against the wall of the cell behind the prisoner. Carton, pressing forward, had already, with the speed of lightning, got him down into it and stood over him barefoot. "Draw on these boots of mine. Put your hands to them. Put your will to them. Quick. Carton, there's no escaping from this place. It can never be done. You will only die with me. It's madness." "It would be madness if I asked you to escape, but do I? When I ask you to pass out the door, tell me it is madness and remain here. Change that cravat for this one of mine, that coat for this one of mine. While you do it, let me take this ribbon from your hair and shake out your hair like this of mine." With a wonderful quickness, and with a strength both of will and action that appeared quite supernatural, he forced all of these changes upon him. The prisoner was like a young child in his hands. "Carton, dear Carton, it is madness. It cannot be accomplished. It never can be done. It has been attempted and has always failed. I implore you not to add your death to the bitterness of mine." "Do I ask you, dear Darnay, to pass the door? When I ask that, refuse. There are pen and ink and paper on this table. Is your hand steady enough to write?" "It was when you came in." So here Darnay is constantly saying, "There's no escape possible. What are you thinking?" And Carton's like, "Dude, I'm not asking you to escape. As soon as I ask you to escape, tell me to shut up and leave. But that's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm getting you to change clothes with me." And he's doing it so hurriedly that it almost gives Darnay no option but to say yes. "Steady it again and write what I shall dictate. Quick, friend, quick." Pressing his hand to his bewildered head, Darnay sat down at the table. Carton, with his right hand in his breast pocket, stood close beside him. So I want you to imagine it. He has Darnay sit down like right in front of him, and then Carton has his hand in his coat pocket right here, and is kind of going to start leaning over him. Now, to remind you, one of the first things that Carton did when he was in Paris is that he went to an apothecary or a pharmacy, and he got those 2 vials of liquid, if you remember, and he was told, whatever you do, don't mix them. And Carton said, oh, I know what will happen. I'm good. So just want you to keep that in mind. Write exactly as I speak. To whom do I address it? To no one. Carton still had his hand in his breast. Do I date it? No. The prisoner looked up at each question. Carton, standing over him with his hand in his breast, looked down. If you remember, said Carton, dictating, the words that passed between us long ago, you will readily comprehend this when you see it. You do remember them, I know. It's not in your nature to forget them. He was drawing his hand from his breast. The prisoner chanced to look up as he hurried, pick that back up. He was drawing his hand from his breast, Carton pulling something out of his pocket. The prisoner, chancing to look up in his hurried wonder as he wrote, the hand stopped, closing upon something. So when Darnay looks up, Carton closes his hand so that Darnay can't see what he has. Have you written forget them? Carton asked. I have. Is that a weapon in your hand? No, I'm not armed. What is it in your hand? You will know directly. Write on. There are but a few more words. He dictated again. I am thankful that the time has come when I prove them. That I do is no subject for regret or grief. And he said these words with his eyes fixed on the writer. His hand slowly and softly moved down close to the writer's face. The pen dropped from Darnay's fingers on the table, and he looked about him vacantly. What vapor is that? He asked. Vapor? Something that crossed me. So Darnay, he gets a whiff of something, and he doesn't know what it is, and he asks Carton about it. Now, I want you to think about who is Darnay writing this letter to, dictated by Carton. Well, it's none other than Lucy. He's writing about the time that he told Lucy and confessed his love and said, I love you. I don't want you to love me back. I know that you don't love me back, but know that I will give my life for someone, for a life that you love. And here he's reminding her of that and saying there's no sense to mourn me. So Darnay asks, what's that smell? And Carton says, I'm conscious of nothing. There can be nothing here. Take up the pen and finish. Hurry, hurry. As if his memory were impaired or his faculties disordered, the prisoner made an effort to rally his attention. As he looked at Carton with clouded eyes and with an altered manner of breathing, Carton, his hand against his breast, looked steadily at him. Hurry, hurry. The prisoner bent over the paper once more. If it had been otherwise, Carton's hand was again watchfully and softly stealing down. I never should have used the longer opportunity. If it had been otherwise, the hand was at the prisoner's face. I should but have had so much the more answer for. If it had been otherwise. Carton looked at the pen and saw it was trailing off into unintelligible signs. Carton's hand moved back to his breast once more. The prisoner sprang up with a reproachful look, but Carton's hand was close and firm to his nostrils, and Carton's left arm caught him around the waist. For a few seconds he faintly struggled with the man who had come to lay down his life for him, but within a minute or so he was stretched insensible on the ground. So what has occurred here is that Carton has drugged him. So he has swapped clothing with Darnay. They look very, very similar, but Darnay, even in prison, looked well put together, hair back in a ponytail, basically. Carton, messy and fussed up. And here he is. He changes clothing with him, and he drugs him. Quickly, but with hands as true to the purpose as his heart was, Carton dressed himself in the clothes the prisoner had laid aside, combed back his hair, and tied it with a ribbon the prisoner had worn. Then he softly called, "Enter there, come in," and the spy presented himself. "You see," said Carton, looking up as he kneeled on one knee beside the insensible figure, putting the paper in his breast. "Is your hazard very great?" "Mr. Carton," the spy answered with a timid snap of his fingers, "my hazard is not that in the thick of business here, if you are true to the whole of your bargain." "Do not fear me. I will be true to the death." "You must be, Mr. Carton. If the tale of 52 is to be right, being made right by you in that dress, I shall have no fear." "Have no fear. I shall soon be out of the way of harming you, and the rest will soon be far from here, please God. Now get assistance and take me to the coach." "You?" said the spy nervously. Him, man, with whom I have exchanged. You go out that gate by which you brought me in? Of course. I was weak and faint when you brought me in, and I am fainter now that you take me out. The parting interview has overpowered me. Such a thing has happened here often, and too often. Your life is in your own hands. Quick, call assistance. You swear not to betray me, said the trembling spy as he paused for a last moment. Man, returned Carton, stamping his foot, have I sworn by no solemn vow already? To go through with this, that you waste the precious moments now? Take him yourself to the courtyard you know of. Place him yourself in the carriage. Show him yourself to Mr. Lorry. Tell him yourself to give him no restorative but air, and to remember my words of last night and his promise of last night, and drive away. So here, Barsad, the spy that's talking here, is going to take Darnay, kind of masquerading as Carton, even though he doesn't know it, out as if he is Carton, and saying that he just got really sick and faint upon seeing his friend.